We live in an era where it has never been any more convenient to watch movies before. I mean, nowadays we have streaming, we have other ways of watching movies which may not be as legal as you think. It seems like we have everything on our fingertips right now, but it got me thinking about a simpler time. Back in the day, before the days of the internet, where watching movies used to be associated with this sound. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the VHS tape. Now VHS stands for Video Home System. It was the most predominant way of watching movies from the comfort of your home since the late 70s up to the early 2000s, when it was replaced by the much superior format at the time, DVD. Now I find VHS to be one of the most interesting video formats out there that I got a chance to experience during my time collecting physical media. And today I wanted to take a trip down memory lane and revisit what it was like watching movies on VHS, some of its advantages, some of its drawbacks, and if it still has a place in our current modern era of streaming and HD video content. So first of all, this is what a VHS player looks like. This is how the remote looks like, which is not working, but I'm still trying to get it fixed. So the video tape goes in here, and it's a largely analog technology, so it's going to be a surprise once we open it. You guys get to see what it looks like on the inside and how it functions. Now this is how it looks from the inside. As you can see, it's a bit rusty. This thing is over 20 years old. I'm still trying to restore it, but it still works perfectly. So let's power it up and see how it works. Once you've selected the movie you want to watch, you just simply place the video cassette through here. This is how it goes. So once you place it in, and then the tape will be wrapped on the drum. This is where all the video and audio information is being transmitted from the VCR all the way to the TV. So this is how it goes out. Then you have your tape. Now, one of the biggest selling point of VCR and VHS players is that you are able to record any program on TV at your own convenience. Now, back in the days, we did not have video on demand. You could not simply watch any movie you wanted anytime you wanted unless you owned a physical copy of it. There was no streaming. So when a movie was airing on TV and let's say it was airing on 9 p.m, you just had to be there at 9 p.m. to watch that movie. If you're not there, then you missed it. You have to wait until the next time it's aired on TV again for you to be able to watch it. So let's say you wanted to watch your favorite movie at the time. You had the option of recording it on a VHS so that you can watch it on a later date. But disclaimer, when you're doing this, you have to make sure you put the AV cables in the right input-output combination, because if you put this in the wrong output-input combination, you end up basically recording nothing. I'm speaking from experience. Another advantage of VHS is that for some movies, the original theatrical version can only be found on VHS. And even some movies like this one right here, the theatrical version is easily accessible on VHS. So you can watch movies in the original version the way it was intended to be seen. Now, like I said before, VHS was popular until the early 2000s when DVDs started to gain popularity. Now, DVDs was such an improvement on VHS that people started to move away from buying VHS. First of all, it had a better resolution. The video quality was better. You were able to get interactive menus and behind the scenes and special features on the disc. These are things that you're not really able to get from the VHS format, because the VHS format is largely, how can I put it? It's largely primitive. You just have to put it and play the movie and rewind it. It didn't offer as much in terms of like interactivity of like the viewing experience as the DVDs would. Now, one of the major drawbacks, at least to me, when it comes to VHS is the fact that the movie had that dreaded pan and scan. For those people who don't know what pan and scan is, whenever movies are made, they're usually shot in specific aspect ratios. But you find that VHS were largely formatted for the square screen, the 4:3 aspect ratio. So you find that whenever a movie was shot on widescreen, they had to cut off sides of the images so that it was able to fit on that square TV set, which is something that I didn't notice until I saw the widescreen versions of the movies that I own on VHS on DVD. Now, this wasn't an issue back in the day because most people had that square 4:3 aspect ratio TV set. But nowadays with HD TVs and we have that standard 16:9 aspect ratio TVs, it usually leaves those black bars on the side side, and it's kind of noticeable that a large chunk of the movie from the sides were taken out whenever they were making these VHS tapes. Now another major drawback of VHS tape is the degrading effect that the magnetic tapes the movie was stored in has on the image quality. Now the more time you watch a VHS tape, the more the quality reduces over time. This one was really evident the last time I tried to watch some of those old movies that I used to watch on VHS, and find out that the quality I'm receiving now is not the quality that I used to watch back in the days. Let's just say the first time you watch Dr. No on VHS is not going to look the same as the 20th time you watch it on VHS. Meanwhile, when it comes to DVDs, the first time you watch The Terminator on DVD is going to look the same as the 100th time you watch it on DVD. Now, do I think VHS has its place in our modern world of streaming and HD TV content? Well, I think it still has. Even though I've talked about some of its drawback, some people will argue that's actually the charm of watching movies on VHS. In fact, most people like the aesthetic of VHS. Some people are still collecting VHS even to this day. So it clearly has a small niche fan base. I've even seen situations where people are making VHS versions of modern movies, which is it's crazy to think you could watch Nosferatu on VHS, but I digress. I still think it has a place in modern physical media. Now, after talking at length about VCR, I wanted to show you guys some movies that I still have on VHS. Now, the first one is the first Bond movie, Dr. No. It's one of my favorite Bond movies, definitely a top 10. I like the villain. I like Connery's charm as Bond. If this movie wasn't successful, we never would have gotten the other 20 plus movies in the franchise. So we can largely attribute the success of the James Bond franchise to the success that this movie got back in 1962. Now the next movie I have is Con Air. This one is an action movie starring Nicolas Cage, John Cusack and John Malkovich. It's just one of those 80s action popcorn flicks that are just fun to watch. This was largely the movie that made everybody believe that Nicolas Cage could be a believable action star, and that tank top with that hair is iconic. I mean, let's be honest, before we had Vin Diesel, we had Cameron Poe. Now another one I have for you guys is another Bond movie. This one is one of the best. This one is Goldfinger. Now Goldfinger to me I think is the most influential Bond movie ever made, and I've talked about it before. I still think this one is the best performance of Sean Connery as James Bond. I usually say if there's somebody who came up to me and was like, I've never seen a Bond movie, where can I start? This is usually the movie I usually point to them and tell them, start with this one. Now the next one we have is Misery. Now this one is a horror thriller that was based on a Stephen King novel. It's a really slow burn thriller. Of course, Kathy Bates won an Oscar for her performance here. She's amazing in this one. But we also have James Caan. Most people don't talk about James Caan in this movie. He's really good in this movie also. It's one of those movies that proved to mainstream critics and the Academy Awards that horror movies, they can really win awards even in the Oscars. So it's a really great movie. Go check it out. Now this one is a classic. This one I still hold it dear in my heart. This one is Commando. This one is the first Arnold Schwarzenegger movie I ever saw. I think this one is the best introduction to Arnold Schwarzenegger anybody can get. It's just like Taken but in the 80s with Arnold Schwarzenegger with big muscles and guns and explosions, and you get the rest. It's fun as hell. What can I say? It's a fun, campy movie. Now we have another Bond movie because I watched a lot of Bond movies on VHS. My introduction to Bond movie was largely through VHS tapes, and this one is License to Kill. This one is a more serious, more dark portrayal of James Bond, and nobody could have done that better than Timothy Dalton. I think this one is the first James Bond movie to get a 15 rating. It was really shocking at the time to see this type of violence and brutality in a Bond movie. This has one of the best villains in the franchise. Timothy Dalton does a great job. I still think he had like 2 more movies left in him. It's such a shame. I really wish I could go to an alternate universe where this guy did more Bond movies, because I think he had a lot of potential in him. Now the next movie I have for you guys is Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Now what can I say about Terminator 2? It's one of the best movies ever made. It's one of my favorite sequels of all time, directed by James Cameron. I think this is his best movie. There's a lot of horror elements in this one also that most people don't really talk about, but it's not as obvious as the first first movie, because in that first movie it was definitely a horror slasher movie, but this one leans more towards like the action sci-fi elements that James Cameron is known for. As I said, this one is the theatrical version of this movie, so we get that original ending. The ending in the original movie is usually left ambiguous, so we don't know whether or not they stopped Judgment Day, which works perfectly for me because the entire movie was all about fate and how the choices we make will shape our future. This one is a recent one that I bought. This one is Casablanca. Now Casablanca is one of those classic movies that, like, if you want to watch a movie from old Hollywood, I feel like it's the best place to start. You can't talk about the history of cinema without mentioning this movie. It's this epic tale that is part neo-noir, it's part propaganda film, it's part a love triangle romance set in the backdrop of World War II. It's amazing. So many quotable lines, so many memorable characters. Now the last one I have for you guys is The Rock. Just like Con Air, they're just the perfect action blockbuster movie. This movie was directed by Michael Bay, and I still think this one is one of his best. This one once again stars Nicolas Cage as this FBI agent. We have Sean Connery playing what most people have theorized over the years that is an older version of James Bond, and then we have one of the best villains in a Michael Bay movie in Ed Harris. Anyway, that's it for the video today. If you managed to stick around until the end, thank you so much. And if you found the video entertaining or informative, please let me know by leaving a like. Also leave a comment. I really like to hear your thoughts on VHS, like what are some of your favorite memories watching movies on VHS, and do you think it's still relevant in our modern day era? Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video.